Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. My name is Ryan Morris. I'm here with your host, Nick Smith. And oh my gosh, today we have such an amazing show. You know what? We had a Giant on previously, Stephen McGhee. And if you haven't watched that episode, go back and watch it because Giants are related to other Giants. It's amazing. And we have Stephen's brother on here. And so Nick, will you introduce our guest today?
I will. I've got Doug McGhee on the line with us. If you're listening to this, we'll say on the line, but he's on the show with us. We've got him on the hook, but he's a true thought leader. He's a Renaissance man. I've been hearing that term Renaissance man this past week a ton, and it's almost like synchronicity that in your bio you are the Renaissance man. And what I love about your project is that you help men see their power in all areas of their lives. And so you're really creating a whole man. And do you focus just primarily on men?
Yes. That's what Realm.men is all about. And obviously, the impact that has with the ripple effect and with men. So do I focus on men? Yeah. But does the impact go beyond it? Obviously, yes.
It's like throwing a rock in the pond, right?
Precisely. Yes.
Yeah. I love your quote here. I wanted to share this. We don't know what we don't know until we have an awareness. And once we have an awareness, we have a choice. Just to give you a sense of what we're going to be diving into today, this is Doug McGhee. So welcome to the show. Glad to have you on here.
Oh, it's an honor. And thank you guys. And what a fun way to spend Sunday morning.
Yeah, perfect. We're going to dive into your story, but we're going to get off track too. So whatever comes up, and I'll take notes. And if you're watching this, comment too. If you have questions or thoughts around this and you want to share them, we'll share them on the screen. And we'd love to hear from you as well as you watch. But can we dive into your journey a little bit?
I'd love to. And I just, I posted this in our community of Realm.men. So I'd ask those guys to jump in and ask questions too, because it'd be cool for them to share a little bit about what their experience has been if they get a chance.
That'd be perfect. And do a watch party. If you have the ability to just click the share button, you can start a watch party on this. So let's go back to your history, going back to the very beginning. What was life like for you growing up? How did you experience it?
Yes. So, such a powerful question and it takes a little bit of inquiry. So we don't know, as children, anything other than what we know. Right. And, from a conventional viewpoint, I was raised by a single mother and had the youngest of 4 children, and my parents were divorced very young. I was 3 years old. So I didn't have an experience or relationship with a father. So, but I didn't know any different, right? Until we get a little bit older and we start recognizing some of the limitations that might have brought forward in my life, which ironically is why I do what I do today, right? But we don't know that when we're 5, 6, 7 years old. So my life was happy. I got a lot of independence. My mom busted her ass to provide for 4 children. And that gave me and my brothers and sisters a lot of independence. And I think that really helped me grow. I always had really pretty deep belief in what I could do for myself, within limitations, of course, but played a lot, made a lot of, mistakes as a kid with that much independence, but it all turned out great. I didn't feel like I had any limitations. And then when I got into deep trouble, guess what? My mom was there to pull me out or make sure that I didn't do it again.
That's awesome. You're hitting on something here that I was having a conversation this week with somebody about normal. And you talk about going through a divorce at 3 years old. You didn't know life any different. So you're normal. This is what I want to post up here. Normal is subjective and relative. And so somebody can go through an experience and have one way of seeing it as normal, and another might go through that same experience and define it as abnormal. And
yeah. Well, and I think single parenting is more normal now than we would think, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. it's that equilibrium though. So your start point, your base was stable, and that was normal for you. So it wasn't disconcerting or interrupting in your progress.
I didn't experience it that way, Nicholas. And as you know, and I think there were some pain points in that as I grew older, and I recognized it, and that's part of our journey. And we'll maybe share a little bit about that. But at that time, I was a happy, fun, energetic young boy who, you know, loved sports and loved to play out at night. And did we have the money to go and play AYL football? No. You know, did I get disappointed in that? Yes. You know, could I have been something different if I did? Probably. Does it really matter today? No. You know, that's the kind of thing that I didn't know any different, right?
I love your analysis, like back and forth, right? This question answers, it's all going on in your world. We're all just sitting here going, okay, analyze, man, go.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you have naysayers, bullies, doubting Thomases, people who said you couldn't do it?
You know, I didn't hear them.
Okay.
I really didn't. I remember a couple, one real dick in junior high, I must have really made him jealous or something. And when you asked the question, I thought about this. So we go back to, you know, an example, and then we have the evidence to produce the answer, right? So your question is, was there any bullies? Well, there were two people that I remember, but they didn't have significant impact on my trajectory. But as a funny story, it was about this time of year. It was in the fall, junior high school. I was in seventh grade, and I had rolled up my fleece, and my arms were okay because I was an athlete, and he was just ribbing me and hardcore about me showing off my arms. And it was like, that wasn't the intention. It was just hot outside. But he was a bully in my life, but didn't last very long. And then a guy, I think probably my biggest doubter was ultimately me, right? My doubting Thomas was me. But that was probably a product of other people that were living life differently. As I became a little more aware as I grew older, you know, we didn't have a lot of money. So, you know, I happened to be in a school where there was a sizable amount of influence or affluence. And I remember going out to lunch and not having money to buy burgers and things like that. And some of those people that flaunted their money were what I would consider more kind of a bully to me, because they knew I didn't have that. And they just, that was their way of gaining power over me. That's what I experienced anyway. But other than those two, not a lot.
It's almost like water on a duck's back for you, is what I'm hearing. Is there were some experiences, but it didn't stick. It just kind of rolled off.
Yeah. And you know, it didn't stick in the moment because I don't think I had the wherewithal to recognize it. And obviously, if I'm bringing it out in this conversation, it did stick too, right? Because, you know, because it's there in my consciousness, it's there in my thinking. And that's where I think this work is so powerful that we all do, is let me unpack that and deconstruct it to see really what that was about. And how can I leverage that moving forward in my life that won't limit me?
Yeah, almost like this, right? How sticky is the experience?
You got it. Like how much Velcro's on it?
Yeah, you remember the story of Tar Baby? I don't know if you've seen that with Brer Fox and Brer Rabbit.
I haven't.
It's a story of this tar baby. The fox always wants to catch the rabbit, so he creates this baby out of tar. And the rabbit goes up and sits by him on the bench and starts talking, and the tar baby doesn't say anything. And he gets mad. He's like, why are you being rude? And he still doesn't say anything. So he punches him. And when he punches him, he gets stuck. And he's like, why are you holding on to me? He punches him again and kicks him. And then all of a sudden he's all tarred up. And the fox has got him. Right. Yeah. And so the more we fight these things, the more we get involved with them, where we're just fighting it and we don't want it, the more it sticks, it seems. It's like our resistance creates more stickiness.
Yeah, that's appropriate. And one of the things that I geek out about is a little bit in the quantum world and the world of energy.
What?
Oh boy. Nick just got. Did you say that?
Let's do it. Let's geek out.
So yes, their thought is a form of energy, and if there is stickiness to a thought, the more attention we put on it, the more substance it generates, and the more impact it has, right? And the more it becomes our way of our way of knowing. So that is super powerful, thoughts, right? Like, yeah. and obviously belief systems, of course.
It manifests in your world. So it might start out as a thought, and this is going into the idea that that our observation of things can change them from waves to particles, that atoms can exist in two places at once, and photons can exist in two places at once. But that attention, that observation of it creates that reality in our world. So the more we think of it and the more we amass, the bigger it gets, and it really does come into our reality.
It becomes how we experience all things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we start to see it.
It's the magnet with the negative ions that are pulling the filter to it. Remember that experiment where you'd pick up the lead with the magnet?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. So it's never the lead that's the problem. It's the magnet. So
I just bought one of those remarkable pen notepads. It'll be here next month, right? But the idea is that you've got this pen that you set on this pad, and it pulls these lead droplets up to the surface, so it writes just like a computer would. But it's that idea of that attraction to that point.
You named it, right? Yeah. So there's a huge amount of personal responsibility, right?
Okay, keep going. Yeah.
Well, so in my experience, for much of my life, I felt like I was at the effect of every circumstance or thing that was going on.
Okay.
We call it, I refer to it, and I think you guys would appreciate is some level of victim consciousness. Like I have no power over that circumstance. So I lived my life as a victim some of the time, reacting to stuff that was going on outside, thinking that I didn't have the power or the ability to shift that experience within me. Okay. So I'm just, that's who I am. That's the way it is. And there's no other possibility. And that got me so far, but it's kind of a powerless place to be.
Yeah. Okay. So hit on that. Powerless versus powerful words, or thinking more that than words.
Yeah. So, gosh, well, here's the rabbit hole.
Yeah. I'm diving in. I'm head first already. I'm ready.
So my belief is that there is unlimited capacity, infinite capacity. And are my behaviors and habits that I am practicing adding to that capacity or limiting that capacity? And then within that capacity comes the power to actually shift and change our attention, our focus, right? And then when we have that tool, and it's an infinite tool, because I don't think we ever get there. I don't think there's ever like this perfect expansive capacity that we hit the end of the frame, right? So my question myself is, am I expanding my capacity and my power and my vibration of who I am as a human being, or am I limiting it and muting it, and that has an impact on everyone around me, right, including my thinking, right?
Yeah.
So the answer for me is just the daily practice of continuing to evolve and expand my capacity so that my power within that capacity is expanded beyond the day before. And of course, it's like energetic. It moves and it doesn't always continue to expand. It goes in and out and in and out. But ultimately, we have more capacity today to handle more than we did a year ago if we're doing our work consistently and if we just don't buy into that victim consciousness.
Okay, so I want to hit on that. You're talking about this. Okay, I like the idea of an upward spiral.
Yeah, great.
In our bodies, we hang on to. If you're working out, you work out, you put out all this energy, and a percentage of it sticks. And so the next day when you start over, you've got a new base level that you start from, so it steps you up. So you might go through a similar cycle like you would day to day, but instead of staying in the same place, you step up because you now have a foundation that has increased your capacity to do more the next day. And if you don't, then you tumble back down the spiral and you atrophy. And that's a law of nature, is we return more to chaos when we stop working on things. And so as long as you keep that foundation in place and keep adding to it, you can build that capacity. And I, like you, believe there's no limit. We limit ourselves based on what we believe about that current tier of that spiral.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think around that?
I had a question about that too, though. So, Doug, because a lot of like just average normal people that are just living their life, thinking that, I don't know, just stuff happens to you by circumstance, and you're just kind of plugging away in life. How did you recognize this stuff? How did you come to see these things and start growing and changing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think once we get beyond the food, water, and shelter, right, and providing for that as a human being, like the Maslow's hierarchy, right? Once we get beyond that, then there's a point in time where we can begin to ask greater questions that are about meaning and fulfillment. And so that, for me, happened pretty definite time frame. I was 36 years old. So up until that point, I felt that I was pretty much operating from ego, trying to create and produce in a world to meet the expectations and the shoulds that I thought I needed to do, right? And then my wife and I chose not to have children, so that's a whole nother evolution. But because of that, I felt like I had to ask those questions a lot sooner in life, because the purpose of, as you guys know, being fathers is your purpose is your children, right? A big part of it. And without that, imagine the questions that you have to start asking about, well, Doug, why are you here? If it's not to procreate, which is what man are, at a primal level supposed to do, what's a greater meaning for you? And so I started to experience those questions pretty early for I think at some point in time, comparatively speaking. And then it's just a process. I mean, it really is. There's no light switch.
Can we create a distinction there between revolution and evolution? And where I'm going with this is a revolution is a turning around, and an evolution is a rising up.
Yeah.
An increase. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I like to think that today's good, or today's, let me think about this. Today's great will be tomorrow's good.
Huh. Yeah. So, can you go into that?
Well, that's the evolution. Like, if I would have believed that my life would be where it is today when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, I would have been done. That's amazing. I'll mail it in and be happy.
Get the trophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so here I am. And not that I'm not grateful and, honoring of what I have and what I've created, but there's a whole nother layer, a whole nother level. And so I know that the more work that I do, the more focus I have on myself and my evolution and my journey, the more opportunity that continues to spiral up beyond just this.
Yeah.
Is the spinning.
Yeah.
You ever rafted?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the hydraulics that happen over life can be a hydraulic. And when chaos and pressure and stress, and we're just holding on, like if you get dumped in a hydraulic in a river,
yeah.
If you are holding on and trying to get out, you will stay in it. you will continue to tumble.
I have an analogy around that though.
Okay.
When it spits it out, have you seen a rock that gets spit out from the tumble?
I've seen myself get spit out from the tumble. I haven't seen myself, but I experienced it.
But that idea, that tumbling, right?
Yeah.
We get in this cycle and we're just sitting there at the bottom of that spiral, just tumble, tumble, tumble. And it breaks off all these edges and it smooths it out, right? So that when you come out of that tumbling, when you wake up to it, that you've been tumbled and you come out of it with a little more smooth edges, you have this experience of being able to experience life differently because of that tumbling. It really breaks off some of the hard edges that we have. Totally. As an analogy.
Love the analogy.
Don't go just jump in a river and try to spin around. Okay, it's not how we're talking about here.
Yeah, metaphorically speaking, right?
I don't know, it's up to them. They're adults. They can.
Yeah. I was talking to the kids that are watching. Yeah, I'm sure there's tons of them.
Yeah, so that's a great.
Kids love quantum physics, right?
Yes,
it's a great example, and we've all, I've made mistakes in my life, transgressions. There's stuff that have gone on that I'm not, so proud of, but it is who I am.
Right.
And that's the tumbling that has spit me out to have a more polished version of myself that can actually grow from that stuff instead of just cave. Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, imagine the rock that never gets tumbled, that never knows, that never wakes up, to its potential. It's like a diamond that never gets cut. It never realizes its potential. It's these things that get us to wake up to our potential. And you talk about capacity. This goes back to capacity. The universe is ever expansive. It's always pursuing chaos. And we're the ones that come in and create the order around it. And that awakening, that tumbling sometimes gets us to wake up, to step into that potential. And so what made you step into that for this career path that you're on? Like, what you said, that 36, that was a point.
Yeah. So, I was checking all the boxes in life. Owned a mortgage company, producing, had a beautiful home outside of Parker, panoramic view of the Rocky Mountains, a pond, a pool. And I was literally mowing the lawn one day and looking up at this. And I just said to myself, this sucks. And it was one of those moments that was like an oh crap moment. So I haven't even taken myself back there. And that's when it all began.
Did that get some emotions right there for you?
Oh yeah. Like, just because I know, well, there's when I recreated, there's heavy emotions.
Yeah.
Because of what I now know was ahead of me.
Right.
I didn't know at that moment. And then because I'm standing here now, there's obviously tremendous gratitude for that too.
Right.
Right. So that's the yin and the yang, back and forth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was the defining moment. And the personal explorations began pretty deeply then.
Here's what I imagine happened. And this is based from the book.
Let's hear it. Right.
It started opening you up to questions you hadn't asked before. When you check the boxes, sometimes you don't ask questions because you're checking the boxes and you've got this pattern and this routine and you're comfortable. In the book, Rit, the small, was born a small, lived a small, was doing small things. But then when he heard the giant laughter up in the distance, it had him look up. And that was the first time he started asking giant questions. What am I capable of? Why are they so big? Can I become like that? Here you are mowing your lawn and you have that look up moment, right? Where it's like, this sucks. There's got
everybody on the outside would look at that and go, holy cow, he's successful. He's got this amazing place, living in the shadows of the Rocky Mountains and all this stuff. Like, be like, that's why I asked the question I did in the way that I did, because A lot of people are doing that right now. Most people are doing that right now, you know?
Well, here's the irony is that I love, Nicholas, what you said, but I thought that I was a giant because I was using the wrong technology, or not wrong or right, but I was using technology that I thought was giant technology because that's what society, that was the value that I thought was important.
Man, yeah, keep going.
Well, it wasn't fulfilling. Ever since I was a young kid, I've worked. And so I knew I was going to, be successful. And I remember a conversation with a sociology professor at CSU where that day, the course was about, you will never grow outside of your socioeconomic status. That was his belief as a sociology professor. And I remember sitting in my chair and about like puking and recognizing that that's BS for me. Because then I started to recognize that I didn't know how, but I knew that there was something beyond the way that my life was. And so I worked really hard to figure out ways to produce and have things that I couldn't have as a child, which is, I think was great. But so the hoodwink was, I thought that was what was going to give me the joy and the happiness.
Yeah.
And the fulfillment. And I got to that lawn mowing moment. It was like, no. And I was like, uh-oh.
It's a later point in life too, because a lot of people are making those decisions, after high school type of in the normal, okay, where am I going to go to college? What career I'm going to do? And they start figuring it out through college and then decide where they're going. At 36, to already have that, you're on well into a path. And then to have that,
yeah,
somebody hits you with a 2x4.
Yeah, my oldest brother talks about, he wrote something called a cosmic 2x4, and I think that was really exactly.
Oh yeah, that's a great analogy, right? Right across.
Hey, we're gonna have to interview him too. We do all the McGhees on this show.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he'd love it.
It's like Tommy Boy. Do I have a mark on my face?
Yeah. Well, I felt it, and so there wasn't a light. I mean, it was a light switch, but it was a long dimmer to turn the light on. And I was resenting my partners in my business. I resented my wife.
Yeah.
I had a separation and an affair. I mean, I'm totally transparent about all this stuff because I want men to know that, this stuff actually happens. It's in
the hiding that we spiral down.
Totally.
Renee Brown talks about it. You just hit on it. I try and just be an open book with people about where I'm at and what I've been through. And it's just when you hide that stuff, there's this sense of shame that gets created around that. And that's where you're not able to step into your potential. That's where you're still tumbling.
You're tumbling, and the guilt and shame is like the negative ions that are being, that you're pulling towards you. So I call it the pit, and we just go deeper and deeper and deeper into the pit.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I think it's all humans, but just because I get to work with such amazing men, shame is the number one trigger for men for weakness. Yeah. And if you're going to expose yourself as having guilt and shame, it makes no sense to do that. Yeah. So you hide it.
Right.
Vulnerability, we don't know, is truly the power and the access. That's the power. Like, you get freed from it.
There's some breaking.
Though, you feel like you should do the opposite, right? Like, you feel like you should, I'm not going to tell people that.
Right. I had an affair. Yeah, it's free to say that. Now, am I proud of it? It's a transgression. Do I had to do some forgiveness for myself and work my way back into an amazing marriage now after 28 years? Yes. But that was the tumbling.
Right. Right. And there's some growth that comes from that, but you can't grow when you're hiding in shame. You can't grow when your story isn't out there. That vulnerability knocks off some of the edges so that you can step out and really grow into your potential. There's some power. I think men need to hear that, especially. There's power in opening up. We live in this macho culture, and you and your brother are really good about, Stephen, about opening up about where you are. And there's a lot of men that just want to hide it. They want to put on this persona. I'm the jock. I'm the sports guy. I'm tough. That what is it? Stoicism.
Yeah, right.
Like, deal with it.
Right.
Deal with it, and don't let anybody know you're suffering. And
since we're getting some things out in the open, I didn't want to drink water this morning. I wanted to drink an energy drink so bad.
I had coffee this morning. I feel great.
Here we are, though.
So
Man, I feel better.
Yeah.
Whew. Let me ask you this, looking at your path that you went on, so you had this awakening and then you step out there. Was it just a straight line to where you are today? Did you have a clear path?
Oh, come on, Nicholas. You should know better than that.
That's a loaded question, huh?
It's a little loaded. Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't a straight line.
Yeah.
No, it was a messy, circular, blah, blah, blah. And I loved it.
Okay.
Because it's who I am today. Were there some North Stars in that whole? Absolutely. Was that the North Star trajectory? And yes.
I like that. Can we hit on that? The North Star?
Yeah. So, I think the hardest thing for me to do was to actually access what I call my emotional body.
Okay.
Because I never had to do that. I pretended that I was unaffected, pretended I was happy, pretended I was fulfilled, pretended that, I wasn't hurt or sad. And so the North Star for me was beginning to access that. Because when I could access that, I could access my heart. And I would know in my heart what my direction would be. But that's a skill too.
Right.
I think we're born with it, but we start layering. So at 36 or 50 or whatever age, we begin to that exploration. I mean, there's levels of it. So one of the things that came as a result of that was, I mentioned that there was a divorce when I was 3 years old. Well, here I am at 38 and asking questions about my biological father that was taboo because of what an ass he was, right? And not a leader and a heavy drinker and verbally abusive to my older brother and my mom. I didn't have those memories. So I went on a journey and connected with him, and contacted him. But through that, it wasn't about forgiveness. It was about compassion for a man who didn't have a relationship with 4 kids. That was the space I was coming from.
Yeah.
So no, it was not a straight line. And it was up and down and questioning and doubting and fear, and always knowing, though, like this North Star, this grounded anchor, that if I came from a clear intention, that everything would just work out. And it wasn't about, making someone wrong. It was about compassion and love and appreciation and acceptance.
There's
I love
power
how
in
you're
your
proud. Oh, sorry. Go, Nick.
Go ahead, Ryan, and then I'll jump in. I've got it anchored in.
I just was I don't know. I'm super impressed with the fact that how you keep talking about how you're proud of even the mistakes that you've made, because we make a lot of them. That's how we learn. We make a ton of mistakes, and we learn, okay, don't do that, do this, and a lot of things that I've done too. I'm not particularly, like, as far as what they were, there could be some shame or some guilt or some things like that, but coming to a place where you can forgive yourself for those, but then even take it to a step farther. And hey, you know what? I'm glad that happened, because it's who I am now, and I'm proud of who I am right now. I'm a giant, right? Like I've come a long way, and I'm proud of that. And it's not just because of all the right decisions I've made. there's probably even more wrong decisions than right decisions some days, and but they've made me who I am. And I see that, and that's pretty amazing. But you anchor into what are your North Stars? What are your, what do you want to be, do, have? What brings you fulfillment? And then go after those things, and you're gonna make some mistakes.
Yeah.
And, along the way.
That
Sorry, you go back to what you were talking about.
No, that's perfect, because you're tying into it even more. I love this. We're going down the path. The thing with the path is people think it's like a canal, and it's more like a river. Making a canal takes a lot of energy, effort, and resources. To cut through mountains, to go a straight line in an environment that's not designed for straight lines, takes a lot of effort and energy. And people get into this mindset that that's how they're going to reach their goals, is they're going to cut a canal to their goal. And the reality is it's more like I love fractals. I'm a fan of fractals because they're pathways. Fractals are pathways, and they're about efficiency. And you start putting energy out there, and you'll be going down a path, and you'll notice that there's another path that's better, and you'll veer off and you'll go on that path. And it doesn't mean that original path goes away. It's still present. And so it loops back into the other path. And so it becomes a branch. And then you go down that path and another one branches off. It's just like lightning and rivers and highway systems and circulatory systems and universes and processes. They're all fractaled, because we start putting energy in and we start to see that's not working. Let's try something else. And we branch out. And then that becomes the river. And we still have these streams branching off of it, but they all loop back to that common denominator, which is you. And so having that North Star tells you, this is where I want to go, but how I get there is indeterminate. I can go infinite ways to get to my North Star, whatever that is. And so I love hearing that you're saying, don't be ridiculous. Like, was there a clear path? No, there's no clear path. There's paths that emerge as you put energy.
You're sometimes ridiculous.
I try, man. I try every day to be a little bit ridiculous. Like,
that's good. Yeah, it's a good question.
Try and do 6 impossible things before breakfast.
And there may be someone out there that has a direct path. I don't know. It's not mine though, right?
But the amount of resources.
Kids at home, you need to look up fractals and Mandelbrot. Just catch up, Google that real quick, and then you'll know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, this is going by way too fast, Doug.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm loving it. So thanks for guiding me here. This is fun. Things I haven't talked or thought about for a while.
So the challenges, was it easy to get to where you are? Was it easy? Like, you're a superstar. Everybody looks at you. You got it made. It wasn't hard for you.
There was some ease. To be honest, I think about, I applied myself, but I had the genes and the capacity when I applied myself to have some results. So that I think is what I would be considered ease.
Yeah.
I think in the world of thought, that's where ease for me has been a challenge.
Yeah.
In that invisible world, of thinking and consciousness, and I'm trying to be aware of the kids that are on, but it's basically the thinking, right? And deconstructing and reprogramming the operating system to align with what's true for my heart. And that was not easy. And it's not like it's done. It's still, continues to work. I still continue to work at it. Does that make sense?
It does. Let me tie it into the brain. So neurobiology a little bit. When you create a new pathway in the brain, initially the firing of that neuron, that new pathway, that thought, is going to be really slow. The slowest firing neuron in our body is 1 mile an hour. The fastest is 268 miles an hour. So initially, let's say you're starting out in this brand new car that you're driving down as a neuron, and it's at 1 mile an hour, and you're frustrated because it's 1 mile an hour, and you're used to doing things at 268 miles an hour. And so the challenge comes in slowing down enough to allow that 1 mile an hour to become 5, and then 10, and then 100, and then 268. And the way the brain's designed is the more you do it, the more it comes in supports. And so it starts building glial cells and support structures and wrapping it, making it efficient. This is how your brain works. But the thinking says, I need to be 268 miles an hour right out of the gate. I've never jumped a motorcycle 400 feet in the air, but I'm going to do it day one, right?
right.
Evil Knievel style.
Yeah.
Going for it.
Right. So the frustration comes in. We have experience around being able to do things at 268 miles an hour. The frustration comes in having to slow down and relearn and develop a new path that starts at 1. At 1.
Beautiful set. I mean, your metaphors are phenomenal, and they're unlimited. I mean, the metaphors aren't maybe unlimited, but what I'm talking about is pathways are unlimited, right?
Yeah. 86 billion neurons in your brain.
Woo.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: if you were to advise yourself, let's say you could travel back in time to Doug McGhee Jr. You know, I keep bringing up Bill and Ted's, the new one, because it's funny. They go back and see themselves, and you go back in time and you're able to just sit with Doug, younger Doug. You pick a time. I don't care when.
Yeah.
But what would you say to yourself?
Oh. I believe the first thing I would say would be to understand to know and understand that investing and pouring into myself was the most important asset I had in life, and that's not selfish.
Man, people need to hear that. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah. So just invest in yourself. It is not selfish. You are the greatest asset that you have.
Wow.
That's hard to do sometimes. You think you're being selfish, and like people forget about themselves. They're busy checking boxes.
Right. Yeah. And so if there was one thing I would tell that previous version of Doug, it would be, it's okay to invest in you. And in my quest for, just my development and my, my evolution, for many years, I felt like I was broken because no one else was doing it, especially guys. Right.
Right.
I'd go to a workshop, or I went through yoga training. I mean, the demographics are 80% women and 20% men, and
which as a single guy isn't so bad, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good time right there.
That's what got me into trouble, actually. That's another episode.
Yeah, be careful.
So, thinking that I was broken and needed to be fixed was what got me there. But at some point, the tumblers changed to know that I was perfectly normal and just on a really cool trajectory of self-inquiry and development. And now I know it's because I have all those tools to serve and help other men.
We were talking earlier about, I don't know if we did it during the show or prior to, we were talking about the tumbler, like the lottery machine. And people look at Einstein as an example and they think, wow, he's incredible. That guy has a brain that's totally different from mine. Well, he doesn't. He has the exact same number of neurons. What he did have that was different was a higher number of glial cells, which are support cells, which means that he pushed himself in such a degree that area of his brain, it was the neocortex and his hippocampus, his memory and his creation centers that were bigger than other people's. And so he was stocking up that lottery wheel, stocking it with all of these balls of information. And so when he went to tumble it and an idea came out, he came up with the idea of the theory of relativity. And it wasn't that his brain was any different from yours or mine. He just packed it so full of ideas that when he went to draw from it, he came up with ideas that people couldn't have even imagined. Not different from you or me. And I hear you saying the same thing. It's like, if I were to go back to myself and tell myself one thing, it would be fill that tumbler with as much as you can, because that'll be your greatest asset to draw from when you go to create.
Yeah, you really summarize things beautifully.
He does all right, Doug. You're gonna give him a big head, and then it's just gonna all unwind.
I want a big head. You know what? Yes, give me a big head.
That's what giants are, right?
Yeah, I know. I was just teasing. I gotta rid him a little bit.
We want, you want to be able to draw from things, and so that asset, investing in yourself, is filling that draw bank with all of that information that you can draw from when you need it the most. And to sit there and say, I've got enough, is to say that you've filled it maybe an eighth of the capacity, and you said, I've got enough. I don't need any more. And you're looking at this capacity, and you're saying, dude, there is so much room in there. Unlimited, literally unlimited. You could store the entire internet plus all of the information that ever existed before man existed in your brain, and still have room to store everything that ever will be created. And you sit there and say to yourself, you don't have capacity.
Right.
That's the lie that we tell ourselves. That's what keeps us small.
Right. And in the other big lies, we don't have time.
Yeah. 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 Interesting. We could go down a rabbit hole around that.
Yeah, I know. That was just a lob over the tennis net for you.
Yeah. Like, oh.
I've been using that excuse, Doug.
Yeah.
Now I can't.
You hit earlier too on an item that you wanted to address, which is the fine line between advice and trusting your instinct, or your what do you want to call that? Not instinct, maybe, but intuition, maybe. Yeah,
or just trusting yourself, right? Yeah. So during that, evolution, for almost, well, it's still going on, by the way. So, yeah. So what I recognized is, like, my foundation is I'm broken. I need to be fixed. And this person out here can fix me, right? This guru can fix me. Mm. And so what I ended up doing was giving my power away to other people who I thought had life figured out. And they delivered it as advice. So, and I'm not saying advice is not warranted or not good. I'm just saying that there's an opportunity to discern what's true for you, for me, and to test and trust that, so that you don't give up your power to other people and go down, a path that may delay your evolution, period. And so I think a lot in the personal development, leadership development, personal growth, life coaching, whatever we want to call it, and it's all different and similar at the same time, is be careful about advice givers, because their journey got them to where they are, but it's not necessarily the right tool, the right chain to pull to get you to where you are. But there's some similarities and some framework that could support you. So I think that was really what I was sharing.
I like this. So I want to hit this real quick. It's not the path, it's a path in the infinite paths that you could have, right? It's one way of doing things. So when it comes as advice as this is the path, and you take that and you find out, wow, that's not the path.
Be very careful if you get this is the path.
Right. I love Steve Hardison came into a training that I was in with Steve Chandler. And he
was
said,
Stephen McGhee there too?
Yeah, there's probably a room full of Steves, and I was the only Nick. And so he comes in and he shares something, and he says, I'm going to give you an answer. It's not like you can go to a book. There's a book of life, and you open it up to page 28, and on paragraph 3 it says this is the answer. That doesn't exist. It's a view. It's a way of doing things, and it could work for you, and it may not. And so I love what you're not advising. I don't want to use that word. What you're sharing here.
That'd be a paradox, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be a paradox.
I think it's funny though. I like that. I like that advice, Doug. Be careful of whose advice you listen to and what's right for you.
Right.
That's try it on. So what would you share with somebody, one of our viewers, if they're looking at getting on this path? How would you share that? What would you say to them?
Why are they, I would ask them a lot of questions like what's going on? Let's just get honest with where you are. And what was your first thought that opened the inquiry into getting on a path, and where do you want to go? I mean, it's a series of questions.
This is the unpacking type stuff, right?
Right.
Getting down to the roots of things that you can get deeper and deeper and deeper, but you do it through a bunch of questions. Right.
And look at the motivation. Is it coming from ego, or is it coming, not from ego? Like, from just an authentic desire to evolve and support and serve others as a father, as a husband, as a business owner, whatever it is, right?
I was going to say something clever like inquiry leads to inquisition, but that didn't quite fit. I went with invention. But the idea of you create from inquiry. Creation allows you to start seeing options.
Well, yeah. And an inquiry, curiosity and inquiry leads you to yourself and what will serve you at the highest level. Right. And there are common themes. I mean, there's common themes. There's habits and behaviors that support most of humanity, and habits and behaviors that probably lower the vibration for most of humanity. I mean, that's just what is so, right? Eating pizza and drinking beer, 3 times a day for 5 years is going to have an impact, right? Going on a cleanse twice a year is going to have an impact. Not right or wrong. There's a different vibration for both. There's different experience in life, right?
I love it, dude. I could go on for hours on this.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well.
So yeah. What other thoughts? Do you have any additional thoughts before we wrap up here?
I think it's a beautiful path, and it's the funnest exploration that we have as a human being, coming from my point of view, right? And for those of you who are, lead and make impact in companies and families, the more that I invested in myself, the greater the benefits were able to be delivered and offered to others, in not in advice, but in who you're being, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to say much.
Sometimes who you're being is the advice. People can see that, and they can watch that who you are and go, oh my gosh, that's great advice. I need to be more like that.
Yeah.
Or you're that, man. I don't know what's in the McGhee jeans, but it's a good gene to be wearing.
Well, it's I don't know what it is either. And I'm very grateful for my mother.
But,
nice pair of seven.
You're amazing. Yeah. She did a great job, by the way.
Well,
just honored to be here with you guys. And you're right. I mean, this is what I get to do all day long at some level. So you're right. This could go on all day, but we're not going to. So thank you.
No. Yeah.
Are there any questions or, I wanted to, I know you guys have But I did read your book, Nicholas, and this has so much simplicity to it, but so much possibility. It's so simple, but I'm going to send it to all of my men, who not only for their children but for them.
Yeah,
because men need to be giants.
I need this. Now. I need this book. I wrote this book for adults. I was listening to the book Who Moved My Cheese, and I thought I could do that. And my whole situation when I wrote the book was I was living like you, mowing the lawn. Like, is this all there is to life? How are all these people creating these giant lives while I live this small one? And how can I change that? I wanted to teach my kids, but I wanted the lesson as much for me as an adult as I want my kids to have it as they develop and grow. I want them to have that pathway. And what's funny is you hit on it. Every giant we've interviewed hits on the path. The giant's journey is really similar. And this book outlines that journey. And it's similar for all of us. It's earned, not given. And it comes from being really terrible at things long enough to get good at them. And then you eventually go from 1 to 268, and what I hear in your story is that the whole journey is the adventure. Exploring yourself is the adventure. Figuring out who you are and what your highest potential is and what your North Star is, and then working toward that is the adventure. And so I want people to hit on that. I love that you're sharing it. I appreciate that plug right there. That was awesome. Thank you.
Well, it's true. I mean, it's I tend to complicate things, and you tend to really ground them and make them very simple. So between the two of us, we probably could maybe connect with some people. But
we could be like a pulsar.
Yeah.
Expanding and contracting of information, right?
Yeah.
So tell us what you're up to real quick. You've got the realm.men program.
Yeah. So, the evolution of my personal work and not having a father and knowing the value of what true masculinity could be in the 21st century just led me to this a couple of years ago. After owning a mortgage company and knowing that there was another season for me, I started coaching, and ironically coached a lot of women at the very beginning because I was missing something to be able to serve and coach men. And so then I went out and got that from a very powerful coach who held me to a mat for a long time and helped me gain some of that fire that I didn't have as a man, honestly. So now I've filled that. I've created this realm.men, which is basically, it's a daily game to produce consistent capacity and power in your body, in your spirituality, in your relationships, in your business. Yeah. And it's a formula. And if you do it consistently every single day, it just works.
I love it.
So we just have men that are doing that with us.
Yeah. If you're watching this, go visit realm.men, sign up for his program, for Doug's program, become a real man by tapping into your feminine side. And in a way, I mean, it's crazy that the yin and the yang, you've got to have both sides of it. And you've got this formula that helps men step into their power. And so go check it out.
Yeah.
Just really appreciate this. We usually end the show like this. And if you want to hang on for a minute, you can. If you have other plans, then we'll end and be done. But we have what we do is the after show, which is just banter. And
3 or 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah. And
I don't want to leave. So if the invitation's there, I'm staying.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll just keep broadcasting here. But for those of you that are watching, go check out Doug's website, realm.men. It's at the bottom of the screen here. You'll see it scrolling across. Make sure you go get a copy of the book and read it. You'll see what we mean when we talk about the giant's journey. And watch for more things because we're creating daily. Ryan and I are always spiraling and seeing what else we can put into this world through the Giants Initiative. And so watch for that. Appreciate you being on here. Make sure you share the show and comment if you have any comments, and we'll see you on the next episode. Nice job, man. Nicely done. It was awesome.
Great fun, gentlemen. You're amazing men yourselves. And we're all doing the best we can. And I just am honored to have an hour with you.
Yeah, you too. I could sit, and if we had a beer, it would be really dangerous.
We come up with a lot of things.
Solve the world. Yeah, no, you and Steve and all of our. If we had all of our giants come together and have just to have a conversation would be amazing. Just a dialogue, that would be amazing to have.
Well, maybe we should.
Just a show of giants,
Yeah.
Yeah. See, here's another idea, another possibility coming from one interview.
Have a pod of giants.
Yeah. We do have what we call the League of Giants that we put together, and they're giants from all over the world. And our goal with that is to create that pod, to hit every aspect of human being.
Well, drop me your guys' address in the chat app or the chat side of it, and I'll send you a Realm shirt so you can have a Realm shirt with your Wake Up Giants shirt.
That's cool. Let us do something
like that.
Too. Yeah, can we send you a shirt as well?
Yeah, medium, please.
I mean, with as giant of a soul as you are, you sure you don't want a large?
It helps. It helps me stay lean and fit.
Yeah, you see this from Ed. Thanks, Ed. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Ed's one of our guys. He's a great man.
Awesome. It's good to see you on the show. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll send you a shirt, and that'd be awesome. I'd take a large. That's what I wear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Ryan, how about you?
I'm in between. So I used to be a 2XL and lost about almost 60 pounds now. And so I'm in between a large XL. So I'll probably stick with the XL for a minute. This is an XL, but it's starting to get a little bit loose. So we'll see how that works out. But I'd appreciate that too. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All good.
Perfect. Okay, man.
Hey, we should probably give Doug a code for if he was providing books or doing something like that, like an affiliate link or something along those lines too. So we'll send you a message after the show and get with you on that too.
Yeah, cool. Here's my thought on it: is these men who are in our community, they're all different ages, but primarily 38 to 50, 55. So young kids, obviously, and young kids don't understand what they're doing because we have, daily assignments and they jump onto our platform. And so this gives them a way to share what they're doing in a really cool visual in a book and how they're doing what,
where they are on the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I had Steve Hardison reached out to me the other day, and he had me call a 4-year-old kid who his grandma is a client of Steve's, and she said he can't stop talking about this book. Can you do a favor and call him? And so I called him up, and he started sharing about the giants and how he's a giant and how at 4 years old he's taken this book to his school.
Well, that gave me chills, dude.
Right? But he's taking this book to his school because he wants to share with all of his friends how they can be giants, right? And it's like at 4 years old he gets it, and at 50 years old you get it. At 60 years old, this book.
Sometimes it takes us till we're in our 30s.
Yeah,
like dang it.
or you're on your deathbed. There's a woman that I talked about that she started doing artwork at about 70, 72 and became one of the top artists in New York. And she was 70. She was in her 70s. People are thinking, I'm done. There's nothing else. I've given it my all. But here she is on the giant's journey at 70 years old. So it's like this pathway is just so open between the ages. And once you figure out, I'm just here on my journey, and it's not meant to be easy. And it's, you've got to earn it. And so I want to instill that in people.
You are.
And that's
awesome. You have the 4-year-old and the 72-year-old is evidence. So
yeah,
that you're right, Ryan. It gave me chills to hear about that 4-year-old too. That's super cool.
That's awesome.
it's amazing.
That makes everything to me. That kind of thing, those stories make it all worth, the hard work,
Yeah.
and then also the personal discovery along the way. I get to meet people like you, Doug, and Steven, and Steve Hardison, Steve Chandler, Nick Smith, and I have a ton of gratitude. So thank you so much for your time too, because that's the most valuable thing too that we have is time, and I appreciate you sharing that with us today and our viewers. So
Yeah, well, my pleasure. Literally, it's an honor.
This is really like, how giant can you be? Today's great as tomorrow's good. And yeah, you hit it right on the head. There is no limit to the giant that we can become. And so I want people to know that. I'm working on that path. I'm somewhere around 5 or 10 miles an hour right now on my path.
we can get you a shirt too, Nick. We'll get you one.
I'm easing up.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What's next for you guys?
Let's see. What is next? So we've got the League of Giants. So we've got a retreat this Wednesday that we're doing. This coming Wednesday, it'll be the first giant retreat, where I'll talk for about an hour about what it takes to become a giant, the giant's journey. So our goal is to get it there. Next is to get the book into the hands of an agent, potentially, to have it go into the big publishing houses to get the mass distribution that I'm looking for. We're also weighing with that whether we should do it self-published and hold on to the content so it doesn't change the way it is, because there's a teaching tool right there.
Mm-hmm.
Doug, we started just real quick, because most people probably don't know this. Nick had written this book, 11 years ago, Nick?
Yeah.
Almost 12 years ago. And it kind of shelved it. I mean, he had it, but just kind of shelved it. And it took our past meeting and some hard things that came into Nick's life to find that inspiration to move forward on it. And I'm really proud of Nick for doing that. But it was amazing once we started putting just one foot in front of the other, even if it was small daily things. The momentum that picked up and the paths that crossed. We, by happenstance, I don't even know if I'd call it happenstance, but it was a decision that we made to go to an event early morning, and we ran into Richard Paul Evans. Like, this guy has written 35, 37, something like that, New York Times best-selling books, and we run into him. He takes a peek at it and says, "Hey, come to my event. I want to use you as an example. The illustrations are amazing. I want you to tell your story." And so, Nick pulled out the checkbook and went to the event. There we met some other people, and from that point on, this book has been created and into a physical reality. And now we just need to get it out there.
Well, and we are. And so the other thing that's next is the League of Giants, right? That ties into that. It's snowballing, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. And so we're just looking for people like you that want to share this with people they know. And, it's that branching out, and it's going to happen. And so we also have other things that we work on the side. We've got a calculator that we're putting together for finance managers to help them be more efficient in their jobs. We've got a sales book because we've both been really efficient at sales. We have all kinds of things that we have our branches into, but our primary focus is this. And so,
maybe they're promoting other people as well, like yourself. That's how we found, because we don't have all the answers. There's people that need Doug McGhee. There's people that need Stephen McGhee. There's people that need older brother McGhee. Who is the other brother?
Sam
McGhee. And we can't do it on our own. And it takes it does take a village of people that are living into their giant potential. We need more of that in this world, because there's some crazy stuff happening, and we need we need more.
Well, maybe there's someone that's listening to this or seeing this that has a connection with the publisher that could really support you guys. I mean, that's how this stuff works. It's serendipitous at some level, but that's why I asked, is because that's my sense is if this was mainstream or whatever mainstream means, what a relief for people to have a conversation about something different than what they're having conversations about today.
Right.
We see parents at home, reading this and talking to them in giant terms and helping those people. And if they're not getting it at home, school or mentors, those kinds of environments where they can start realizing that, man, look, just inside of you, a little tiny human, you can be, do, and have anything that you want to have in life. And we see it in those people. That's why I got the chills with the 4-year-old, because I could just see him getting excited about it. And, it's awesome.
Yeah. And just thank you. Because it's not easy. It's not a straight path. Right?
That's
right.
Yeah. It's not. I used to have a company called Clear Path Training, and I used to think that you could create a clear path. And I still have it up, clearpathtraining.com. And it's clever, but there's no clear path. It's branching. You're branching and you're feeding energy to the most efficient path. And that's where you start to discover. And so, man, thank you too. It's just just an honor to be with you. I'm going to go spend some time with my kids and just enjoy the rest of the day. I hope you do too.
All right, guys. Remember to send me your addresses, and thank you for the opportunity, and blessings to both of you always.
Yeah, you too.
Yep. Blessings to you too.
We'll be in touch. Take care.
All right,
Take
guys.
care, Doug.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.